So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Follow-Up Friday, our collegial circle conversation. I'm Kelly Cordero.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Erica Flores. And before we get started, we wanted to share the following with you. So if you haven't already, we invite you to join our, to visit our website and join our listserv, and be sure to follow us on Twitter.
And we also want you to know that our entire RBERN team is here with us today. And of course, we're always here and available to support you in any way we can. So on the screen now, you'll see our contact information. And we encourage you to reach out to any resource specialist via email at this time if we can support you in any way.
We also want to invite you to subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel, where you can find recordings of past webinars and instructional snapshots. And at this time, I want to invite everyone to sign into the chat using your first, last name, district, and title, so that we can confirm attendance and provide CT/LE credit. So during our most recent Tune-In Tuesday earlier this week, we shared tools and tips for co-planning in the digital classroom.
And as our follow-up Friday for today, we reached out to some of your colleagues asking what has been working for them as they navigate co-planning during distance learning. So we are really very excited and thankful to have teachers from 4 Long Island school districts with us today, ready to share. And of course, we also invite all of the participants with us today to share with us through the chat or by using the raise your hand feature on Zoom.
Okay, so let's get started. First up, we would like to welcome Amanda Chancing and Marissa Bonzi, who co-teach integrated ELA for grades 6 through 8 at North Babylon Middle School. Amanda and Marissa will be sharing their co-created digital space. Amanda and Marissa, we will share your slides for you, so just let us know when you want to advance to the next.
Hi, everyone. So to start off, a little background. When this all first started, when we were home and we were like, okay, what's going to happen with education? It was difficult to plan. And Marissa and I went back and forth. We were speaking every single day. We were working with all 3 grade levels. I teach, we both teach 6 through 8. And it was very difficult. So the second week of remote learning, we took a step back, and I attended a webinar, and in that webinar they were like, let's take it slow, right? So that's what we did. We set out a plan, and we said we'd meet every Monday, and we'd plan the agenda for the week given that Monday. So having some sort of structure, and just like you would in school, having a time to meet and plan is important, because I think as we're home, we're kind of like overdoing it. We're calling every day, doing everything at the same time, and it becomes overwhelming. So we have to give ourselves time allocated, and a time allocated agenda. So we used the Mindful Mondays to activities to kind of give us some breathing space, so we know that every Monday has been taken care of. So that Monday we plan for the next, for the Tuesday and the next coming week. And you can change the slide. So we use the at-home learning agenda, and as you see, it's very simple, because parents are reading this and they're feeling overwhelmed with the amount of work that teachers are giving out. And reading the instructions is very important for them. So if you keep that in mind, we try to minimize the amount of words, and you'll see we have Mindful Monday, we did a diary for them. So this is and if you see on Thursday and Wednesday, these activities are linked to the Google document. So when the students click on it, they go straight to the Google document.
Yeah, this way it lessens the confusion for them and they're able to just access it immediately. And we also put together like a little journal, since it's like, you know, a live experience artifact that they're going through right now. We put together a little journal called a COVID journal. So each day they can write their thoughts in it, how they're feeling, what's happening in their life, how is it affecting them, how is it affecting their families, and we kind of check in with them on a daily basis through that as well.
So Amanda and Marissa, there's a question in the chat. Is this a template that you created?
I think Katie,
Well,
Katie Ramirez, one of our colleagues, right, Marissa?
Yeah, she shared it with me, and then, yeah, we tweaked it.
We made it fit what we needed.
Right.
But it's good to have a template. Do you see, like, it gives us, this is something that we would use anyway. We have a similar template on a Google Doc.
Right.
So this is like more user-friendly for parents and students. And if you can link wherever you want the students to go to this, it makes it easier. Mm-hmm.
Instead of them asking, where do I get it? How do I find it? I can't log in.
So Amanda and Marissa, is this something that you'd be willing to share? We have some interest in this template. If you'd like to share that as a resource afterwards.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes, I think it's shared on the document as well.
Right. We can share it, then you give us permission to send that.
Yes, we give you permission.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And we can go to the next slide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so these are some of the tech tools that were working for us that we've started playing around with and implementing. One of them is Epic Books. So I've been playing around with that a little bit. It allows you different novels, different like nonfiction, fiction. You can kind of hone into their lexile level, and it goes by different skills, different interest books. So I've been playing around with that for a little bit, and it seems like a great tool. I've been using it even more for my standalones to get started with them and my former L classes. So going to start with them and then hopefully move it to the integrated.
Yeah, the reason I like Epic is because rather than NewsELA, because first of all, it reads it aloud to them, right, Marissa?
Yes, it does read it aloud.
Yes, and some of the material was at a lower reading level for our students. Like you can actually select it, and it was user friendly. It wasn't overwhelming like NewsELA is.
Right.
So if you look at the format, it's very different. So that was one of the reasons.
The kids seem to really like it.
Yeah, the students love it. And we also use Screencastify to, so now this supports our students that have, their goal is that they have to have work read aloud to them. Mm-hmm. So you'll see in this video, I go over the week's agenda. And by hearing my voice or Marissa's voice, it kind of just reiterates what they have to do, and they feel some sort of comfort in that.
All right, so I'm going to show a snippet of this.
If you want, yep.
Or not.
Hi everyone, I really miss all of you. Miss Bunzi and I talk every day about how much we miss you. So this is week 30th, March 30th, I'm sorry. And for Mindful Monday, we would like you to consider all of our healthcare workers. It's actually Healthcare Appreciation Day. So write a letter, hold up a sign, take a picture with your family, with a message for our healthcare workers. I've posted some examples for you on Google Classroom. For Tuesday, you're going to work in your blue workbooks, and you are going to pay attention to the trial of Tom Robinson. There is a graphic organizer, and it's based on the skill of fact versus opinion.
That's good.
You're going to learn how to make inference.
So awkward hearing myself.
We love your accent.
It sounds so good.
So as you see, we do this every week for them, and this supports all students. Right? I do this for my general education classes as well. So for my 2 periods that don't have ENL students in them, I still do this for them because it's good practice, and it supports all learners. The next tech tool, Marissa, I'll speak to Google Voice and you can speak to Flipgrid. So we're having a few staff members feel uneasy about sharing their personal cell phone numbers. So I did a PD on Google Voice for them and posted the number on Google Voice. So Google Voice is an app that allows you to have a actual cell phone number, and students can text you on it from their computer. They can call you from their computer, and it's just a great way to stay in contact without sharing your personal number. And you can set a time of when you don't want to be disturbed, and it just gives another platform for them to reach out to you during this time. And we've had a lot of success with it.
Muted. Sorry, I was muted. So also another tool that we use is Flipgrid. We find this a great tool. So we give them a topic, whether it be a book response, and we have them log in through Flipgrid and kind of record themselves speaking about the topic. It gives them, it takes care of the speaking component. Instead of having them always writing something, it takes care of the speaking component. So we model it first with a Flipgrid with us, and then they get to see us speaking and listening to us, and then they respond.
So we can go to
next slide, right?
Slide. So some of the challenges, I'll speak to the first one. So it actually took me an hour last week using Proprio.
Amanda, we've lost your audio. Are you muted?
I didn't even do that. Okay, so I'll speak to the first one, the first bullet. Communicating with a newcomer last week took me an hour on using Proprio and trying to get that family to be able to get onto Google Classroom for all teachers. So all of the teachers, there were 5 different teachers, and they needed this one student to get onto their Google Classroom, and we couldn't communicate that to the family. What happened was the father was not spelling Babylon correctly. So the student wasn't able to get into his account. And no one could figure that out until I said to the dad to just take a picture. And I actually did, I gave my cell phone number, and they sent me the picture, and then straight away I could figure out that he was spelling Babylon incorrectly. Even though we were spelling it correctly in the text messages and, you know, in further communication, but that just shows communicating with our newcomer families is difficult. So kind of bridging that gap, we have to sometimes like step out of our comfort zone and help them out. So I did have to share my number and have that communication with them. But now that was solved, he's in all his classes. And I think, Marissa, you said the other day that he's the one that's completing the work, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's doing it every day.
Yeah. So just having that initial, like spending that time and making sure that he is, you know, these families are taken care of is worth it. Bullet 2 as well, supporting our ENL students with special needs. A lot of our colleagues are reaching out to us, and you know, we're sharing that you have to use the tools given to you. So you have to record your lessons, you have to record yourself and put that out there.
Yeah, so and then authentic assessments that we're using. So we're doing little projects with them. We were doing an animal unit. So we put together an animal research project with the different animal intelligences for them to research. We had a Google Doc where we submitted it for them where they could compile their research. And then we modeled and gave them visuals on how to construct it into Google Slides. So they did like a little live presentation with it. And giving them weekly little quizzes or assessments based on the skills that they're learning throughout the week, but not trying to overwhelm them. Short little quizzes.
Mm-hmm. And I think it is a lot to communicate with students on a daily basis. Like, we're forever going back and forth. It takes a lot of time, and documenting everything in all these in a phone log and with the guidance counselors, and now we have a running records of so there's 3 different places that we have to document our communication with students. And I think as districts come up with a better plan, we have to streamline that.
Absolutely.
And then tech issues, sites are blocked, students can't get into certain sites, material, they can't access the material that you're posting. So you just have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, we're having some difficulty with that. They changed the way they get in for the online textbook now. So a lot of my students, I assign something with the online collections textbook, and a lot of them are not doing the work because they're having trouble still logging in. So that's been a bit of an issue.
And being mindful that PDF pages change when you upload a PDF, and what you see might not be the page that the students are seeing. So just be mindful of those little nuances.
Excuse me.
So I think that's it.
Yep, I think we're done.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Amanda and Marissa. You really brought up so many important points. Right at the beginning, you mentioned how when we all first started this, there was just this overwhelming amount of information and advice on how to approach our digital classrooms. And you summed it up best with just, keep it simple, stick with things you know. And you even mentioned, that great template that you shared, thank you so much, that this is something that you would have been using anyway. So it's something that, you're used to using to plan out together, to plan out for your students. So that is really such a great approach to how we're co-planning for our digital classrooms. We also in the chat has been very active. So thank you for all of the questions, comments, input that's coming through in the chat. We will be sharing all of that with you. Erica and I will go through the chat transcript, and any questions, information that's shared there, we will be sharing with you so that you have that, you could take that away. And that's really it, unless there are any additional questions right now for Amanda and Marissa before we move on to our next participants that are going to share with us.
Here, that was asked, how do you make a copy for each student to turn in if it is a link in that slide?
I share it, when I share it with them, they know that they either have to make a copy for themselves, if that's the only way they can get to it, but all of them have a copy for themselves. That's a good question.
Right, because you use Google Classroom, right? And so that has—
Yes, we use Google Classroom, yes. But we've taught them, thank goodness, we taught them before, we taught them how to make a copy and things like that, so they know that. It's only our newcomers.
Okay, at this point, I just want to say, I noticed that some additional people have joined us. So if you have not already, I'm just going to remind you to please enter your first and last name, your district, and your position in the chat so we can verify your attendance and provide CTLE credit. And up next, we would like to welcome ERIN Holtkamp and Stacey Boschnick, who co-teach 4th grade together in the West Hempstead School District. ERIN and Stacey, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And please let me know when you're ready to advance to your next slide as you share your experiences.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. So I'll start for our first slide. I'm the ENL teacher, and we teach 4th grade together. Stacy's the Gen Ed teacher, and we have I have about 6 ENL students in her class. So I wanted to start with the positive, what went well. The positive was Stacy and I happen to speak often on the phone. So we're very close and we plan very well together, whether it's last minute or for hours. So we didn't have that issue going into it, which was nice. A few days before quarantine, we kind of heard rumors of maybe having to quarantine. So we started to just show some kids additional things on Google Classroom, where to find things, where to find classwork. We had been using it all year, but not in this capacity. So we kind of snuck in a couple of lessons the week before.
So yeah, we tried to do a little damage control right before
we
went into quarantine.
Show them a couple extra new things. Again, we didn't know when we might be going home. We didn't know what we could take home. There was one student who told us she didn't have a computer right away. So I actually made some copies of some things to prepare as if I was going to get her ready for the NICES slat. So that obviously went out the window, but I wanted her to have some pen and paper things just in case she didn't have a computer.
And I just want to mention, I did see Erin tweeting about dropping off packets, books, materials. I saw Stacy on Erin's lawn dropping off books to bring to students. So thank you for that.
Yeah, so you'll see that. We tried to do as much as we could. Okay, you can go to the next slide. This is a little bit of our beginning struggles. So this is just kind of an example of some of the things that we posted, what some of our assignments might look like. What we did learn when we first started, I think everyone felt we had to post more initially. I think everybody had that feeling, like make sure you have enough for them. And then it wasn't long after we realized we needed to stop that and really scale it down and break it down for them. So Stacy and I talked a lot about that. And we had a lot of issues with passwords and logging on.
Yeah, a ton.
Stacy would post it 17 times and they still would say, I can't find it, it's not working. And that's very time consuming for all the teachers, because then you're responding, it's taking up your whole day, whether by phone or by computer. So that's a struggle, and I hate to say it, sometimes it's still a struggle, right, Stacey?
It's still an ongoing struggle that we're having every day with people just not reading directions, or my password's not working, so we're constantly back and forth on the phone or on email trying to get the kids connected. Some of our students just got computers within the week, so we're just starting them. They're a couple weeks behind everybody else, so it's taking a little while.
And Stacy uses the Remind app, and she handles most of that, which is nice because it will translate if it needs to. So she's very good about telling them what's coming, what to expect, what they need to do. So in some instances that helps, but it also can be overwhelming for Stacy, I think, from my perspective, because it can be bombarding. Stacy, do you agree with me?
Yeah, I agree. I'm getting messages around the 24 hours a day, all through the, this isn't working. So I had to individually message people, or I've had one-on-ones with a few students to try to work them through the problems, which seem to have helped the best.
Yeah, more of the one-on-one small group seems to help, I think, overall. Just setting it up sometimes can be difficult. Many of my ENL students in her class, we had a lot of trouble getting in touch with them. And so we ended up getting them Chromebooks, but it didn't happen until about 2 weeks ago. So it was 2 weeks ago and then a week ago. And then when they got the Chromebooks, we discovered that what they thought was Wi-Fi is actually probably LTE or internet access on their phone. We had an instance where we got them free Wi-Fi and they went to have it installed by Verizon, and the landlord kicked them out and said no. So, you know, when you run into that, it breaks your heart, because you went through all this effort and the kids get so excited, and now we're down to nothing. So we do have some kids with Chromebooks. they've had them for a few weeks. We have at least 2 that are actually finally doing some work and really excited about it. So
Yes.
that really is awesome. Stacy and I get very excited to see one.
Right. We have a few students that we had to give, the principal had dropped off some backpacks for them, because it was either too difficult for them to log in, or the parents were having trouble, so it was just easier to give them some work. So I think there's about 2 or 3 students right now that are not online with us.
Yeah, and so what I do is I gave out my cell phone just for my 4th graders. I have 6th graders too, but I only have about 13 4th graders. So I'm comfortable with that, because it wasn't a lot. And I asked them to take a picture of their writing or themselves reading or doing math, and send a picture to me. And then I create a little work done at home folder, and I'll upload the picture. That way, you know, we have proof that they did it. And
Right.
Some is hard to read, and it's hard to give feedback, but I just kind of say, keep up the good work. Can't wait to hear more about what you're reading or writing. So
Yeah, I mean, we just get so excited if they're actually, the kids get so excited if they're actually producing something. So we try to make a really big deal about it.
Yep. I know you had mentioned earlier that making an assignment, one thing that we quickly realized is when we create assignments, if we create assignment for them, there's a drop down. We create a blank document with name, date, the title of the document, and even an outline of expectations of what we want them to do. And there's a drop down when you upload it of make a copy for each student. And when we started doing that, we had more success.
Right.
Them turning in things that were not blank. So if you haven't done that, we suggest it.
Yeah, we were getting a lot of blank papers coming back, and the students weren't understanding. They were, stating that they were doing all the work, but it was coming back to us blank. So we really, ERIN was great about walking them through that.
We did screencastifys. I created visuals of step 1, step 2, and it didn't work. So we said, well, let's make a copy for each student. Kind of automatic. It just sits there waiting for them to touch it. So as soon as they open it, they kind of just figured that out for the most part. And then we host a lot of live sessions every day at 12 o'clock. Yep. And I do my best to jump onto hers. I mostly am on Stacy's. I'm able to jump on, and the kids absolutely love it. And Stacy has pulled out her old school whiteboard, and I'm her director. We're all
right.
A little higher, a little lower.
Right.
You can see in the picture the whiteboard on the right side, doing some improper fractions, clarifying, and really explaining some of the work. We had students who were very confused. And what's cool is that then we've had students now say, can I stay on with you?
Mm-hmm.
So then we can just work with one-on-one.
Right.
So I don't teach math, but now I teach math. So
she does. She's good at it. But the students, sometimes, like yesterday, we were on for about 45 minutes, and then I stayed after with 2 of them, and the 2 of them actually were working together, and I was just there facilitating. So it was actually pretty cool. It was almost like I was doing a small group in the classroom, that the students were doing it together, and I just, guided them through, which is so cool, I think, to do virtually.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. So
I think so many of the students are just really missing that together time too, and that sense of community. So that's great that you're able to provide that as a whole group, and then again as those smaller groups. That's great.
Yeah, and the best way to really assess their learning is to have them teach someone else. So we get to see that without having to actually do a test of any kind. You can go to the next slide. So we have some tech stuff that's worked. Just from a personal standpoint, I started calling students early on And I had a conversation with a 6th grader, and just randomly I said, so, do you have a computer at home? And the answer was no. And then I said, all right, so you have some books maybe that you can read? And her answer was no. And I was not expecting that. That I should have expected it, but I didn't. So I clarified that she literally had no books at home. So I reached out to my 4th grade team. You can see them on the right. There's a couple of them in our little 4th grade planning team. And as I started calling the rest of my students, one of my first questions was, do you have any new books that you could read? I didn't word it as, do you have books at home?
Right.
I didn't want them to feel that way. I just said, do you have any new books that you will be reading that you're interested in, that you could write about or read about or tell us about, knowing they did not have technology. So these are students who didn't have technology. And now I found out they had no books. So my children, I had them read our books, because why not clean out every closet we can in quarantine? And I ended up finding a ton of books. I have a 4th grader and an 8th grader. I had like 3 bins of books that we could donate. So I asked my 4th grade teachers and some middle school teachers, and Stacy was the first one at my door with a box of books from her house. And we started collecting, and my family and I just put them in bins, and you could see the picture of the dog, 2 dogs. We piled them up. I put their names on them, and I sorted them, and I decided I know what they like. I happen to be able to get some Spanish books because they're mostly Spanish speaking. My husband sells books, so we went to his storage unit and rated it. And I have students who are newcomers who can't really read in English. So I got a bunch of everything. We delivered it to them, and they were so happy. So that was probably the best thing we've done so far. And now I know at least they're reading. And when I talk to them, I could say, what have you read? Because I know they have those books.
Right.
So I had a lot of help from my 4th grade team and my middle school teachers. And we gave it to 13 different students in 12 different houses, dropped them off, and they all got it. It was great. And then we started adding some more technology.
Right. We started using the past, I guess, 2 weeks, I started using Screencastify. Like yesterday, I set up a social studies lesson, and I just needed to give them a little background. So I read aloud what I had typed for them and put a map up and explained to them. So basically, it was kind of like I was, teaching a lesson in the classroom. And it's taken me a couple of weeks to get there, but now I think I'm finally more comfortable with doing that. I mean, I was a little tentative at first to use Screencastify and to use, the Flipgrid shorts. And now as I'm doing them more, I'm getting a lot more comfortable with it. And it seems to be working. I mean, I'm getting a great response from the students. And I had a few parents message me that they're appreciating, all the work that we are doing, because now their children are really understanding more of what we're teaching instead of just putting up a slide and having them kind of teach themselves.
Yeah, the Screencastify has been great to help clarify things. And we love Flipgrid. We've always loved Flipgrid, but that's been a lifesaver because I want my kids to read, write, speak, listen every day. So I always include something speaking, and Stacy and I just kind of connect it to whatever we're doing, or even something fun or something for the community. And they really enjoyed participating in that.
Yeah.
Bunsy is another one that we like, and they're familiar with it. So their struggle was connecting the link for Bunsy. It is a little tricky. So I did a Screencastify, and I'm getting my Bunsies in now. So that was necessary. It's not as user-friendly as I'd like. I wish you could just click a button and share it to Google Classroom, but you do have to copy the link. So Stacy and I kind of figured out I needed to create something. So I did, and we're getting them in.
Yeah, the kids are doing pretty well with it. And I'm getting feedback that they're loving it.
Yeah.
They're really enjoying learning. So.
And it's a great way to assess their learning. So we ask for certain things, 4 slides, 1 slide must have this, 1 slide must have that. And we will send it back and say, you're missing X, Y, or Z. Please, resubmit it. And, we don't always get it back, but we can ask.
Right.
I'm just checking in on the time, and I want to make sure that we have a chance for everyone to speak. So I know you have one more slide,
You got
and
it.
I want to also leave time in case anyone has particular questions for you. So is it okay if we advance to your next slide now? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you.
This is some of our Bunsey, our Flip Grid Fever, spine poetry that we've done. Those are our kids on my beach. Stacy came down to my beach. I gave her the key and her kids ran around, and really just a message to, you know, the fact that we're friends and that we support each other and our families and keep each other sane. So I think that's one of
That's
the most important things, because we laugh every day. And
You have to.
That's important.
And I
We
think
have to.
that's big for distance learning,
Yeah.
teaching, online, whatever you want to call it. So that's why we did that. And we're doing a Padlet. Stacy's done Padlet, but we really are enjoying some Padlet stuff too. So
Great. Thank you
That's
so
it.
much, Erin and Stacy. And I love to leave it on that point, on that you guys are friends, and that helps you co-plan together. I think that's so important to develop that type of relationship. So I just wanted to see, I don't see any current questions, but is there anyone that has a question for Erin or Stacy at this time? I'm also going to put up their email address here. So if
thanks.
something, you know, that you want to reach out to them, I'm sure they would be happy to answer any questions or share any of their current practices with you. Just thank you in the chat. So next we are going to hear from Ashley Gary and Brianna Carnevale from Long Beach School District. Brianna teaches 9th to 12th grade ENL at Long Beach High School. She co-teaches 3 classes, reading grades 9 through 12 for students with disabilities and ENL, and English 9, which consists of 17 native English speakers and 7 English language learners, and lastly, English 10, which consists of 21 English language learners. So Brianna teaches 2 sections of standalone ENL at the transitioning level for grades 9 through 10, and also for grades 11 and 12. And Ashley Gary also teaches grades 9 through 12 at Long Beach High School. Ashley co-teaches a Regents level Earth Science course, a Regents level Living Environment course, a 9th grade reading class with non-native English speakers, and an 11th and 12th grade Entering Emerging ENL class. And the science classes have 100% English language learners in it. So I am going to pass it off to Ashley and Brianna. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great so far learning from all these wonderful educational professionals. My name is Brianna Carnevale.
My name's Ashley Gary.
And we wanted to start our presentation just showing some of the highlights that as a district and the ENL program at Long Beach High School has been experiencing during this time of distance learning. So one of our biggest highlights has been the Remind app. So the Remind app has been amazing for communication with parents. We've been able to send screenshots of district documents and send these documents not just to the parents, but also the students. We've been able to post daily updates about our Google Classroom assignments. We can communicate with the students and the families in their native language using the translator. So Remind has been great, and a lot of our co-teachers also use this. The second success has been the Propio calling service. So we have an amazing ENL coordinator, Evelyn Daza. So she's pretty much the backbone to all of our successes. But for Propio, we were very fortunate for our district to purchase this calling service. So teachers that don't have the language support to communicate with different families can dial in using a number, and they're met with a live translator on the opposite end. They select the language that they need to communicate in with the families, and then the live agent then communicates with the families. So it's a great tool just to reach out to everyone and make sure that all families are receiving the information that's currently being posted from the district. We've also experienced a lot of rewarding conversations with parents and families, just sending a simple message through Remind or making a phone call. These parents are so grateful. The guardians are extremely grateful for everything that we've been doing. Just a simple check-in. Hi, how are you? Can we help you? Do you need anything? So all around, I mean, Ashley and I have been finding that a simple phone call goes a long way. Our teaching assistants at the high school have been a huge support also. They're working with us to support us in the classroom, where they're making phone calls and also communicating with families, help set them up with Wi-Fi, and also just to kind of manage the phone calls a little bit more systematically. Ashley and I provide a lot of bilingual weekly updates via emails to the families and to the students. We're thinking about starting a newsletter just to update the families about what we've been working on in Google Classroom, the skills we've been targeting, different technology, how they can support their learners at home as well. One of the things that makes us really proud to work in Long Beach is the faculty-led collections and distributions that we've been experiencing. Not just E&L, I mean, we've done our fair share with assisting families in need, bringing collection baskets, donating money. But as a community, as a district, we've all been supporting, delivering food, and being those people that really just care about these families and are there for them in a time of need. We've also had a lot of successes with our co-teachers. We've done a lot of planning through the video calls, through Zoom, Google Meet, so that's been effective in the planning process for our co-taught classes. And finally, throughout this whole process, being home and still teaching, I think that it's a great opportunity for all of us to discover new technology, to take advantage of webinars, participate in a lot of the Twitter chats. So I know Ashley and I have a few favorites that we've been participating in, but we're just looking at opportunities to build our professional learning networks as E&L educators.
Yes, and with all of the highlights, of course, we'd be lying if there weren't challenges, as I'm sure a lot of educators are finding right now. So as previously mentioned, I think earlier in the presentation, students and families did not have internet access, so they weren't maybe necessarily receiving the emails because they didn't have the internet. So through our phone calls, there are some providers that were providing the free internet, like Altis. So with our help of our director and the guidance counselor and other E&L teachers in our district, making those phone calls to be consistent and follow up with the families to ensure that they were able to get their internet. Something else at first that we found was when calling parents, we were using a blocked number, and some parents wouldn't answer a blocked number, and then maybe we couldn't leave our callback number if we wanted our number to be private. So using things like Google Voice and Propio and Remind definitely help alleviate that problem. And then just motivating students who are still working. So a lot of our high school students are still working at various restaurants and pharmacies. And also dealing with family trauma, like families that are experiencing family members with COVID, losing jobs, things like that. So just really making sure that the students and families know that we're here for them as people, as teachers, and just really trying to motivate them to do the best that they can, and to know that we're here.
You can go to the next slide.
Thank you.
So at the secondary level, we're fortunate because a lot of our students, all of our students actually, receive Chromebooks. So we've been using Google Classroom and a lot of technology resources prior to the school's closing. So that is one positive with the Long Beach School District. They are very big on the one-to-one computer initiative. So we are Google Doc, Google Slides, districts. So one of the resources that I found to be very successful, especially with my co-teacher for English 9, is Screencastify. So we just find, not just for the L's, but for the students, for all populations, Screencastify is great for guided instruction. So we use it a lot to teach new material, review, pre-teach vocabulary. We are doing Romeo and Juliet right now, which can be a little bit difficult teaching, outside of the classroom, but we are finding a lot of success. Screencastify is also great for modeling a process. So for my standalone class, I teach the transitioning level students, and it's great to just show them the steps if I want them to sign up for a new account, for a new program. I used it for Flipgrid during the school year, so it is a great way for them to see the end product and to walk them through the steps in a very manageable way. So what I want to show everyone is a screencastify that my co-teacher and I created for our English 9 classroom. Again, we were doing Romeo and Juliet before the school closed. So this screencastify is using the website of bubble.us, bubbl.us, and it's a mind mapping online tool that we found a great success with our students since we were working on this before the school closed. So, Erica, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to show you the email address, and then you'll click Create New Mind Map, and then it'll give you this screen. So start here. I would write Act 2, and then say you want to bold your lettering. You can bold it, italicize, make the font bigger. Now, of course, when we did this in school, we used lines and circles to extend. So you can click the plus sign if you want to create another box. Say you don't want to create the other box, you can use the X to delete it. If you want to create a line and keep building off of the squares, you simply click the plus signs. If you want to create one going this way, you can move them around like this. And then, of course, add more text. Friar Lawrence. Want to add something? Agrees to marry Romeo and Juliet. So once you're done with your mind map, you can click share in the corner. You can get a link or embed, and you could share it with Mrs. Farrell and I.
Okay. Thank you, Erica. So this is just a tool that we found to be very successful. We've used it so far with Romeo and Juliet. I've given my L's kind of like a vocabulary building exercise also to mirror what we're doing if I see that they're struggling. So they've also been using the mind map for vocabulary, coming up with synonyms for important words that we're coming across in each of the acts and scenes. But ultimately, at the end of each act, students use this website to create a visual representation of all the important plot events, characters, vocabulary terms, and we're looking to display all of this into like a class-made booklet, and then that way it's a good resource as we move forward with Romeo and Juliet. Okay.
So one thing that I realized when we transitioned to virtual learning was the need to have an organized Google Classroom, as this is the main platform that I use with my standalone and my co-teaching classes. So one of the big things that I love is that you can schedule assignments ahead of time. And this is beneficial because if you're planning a unit, you can upload everything that you want for that unit and schedule them to come at different times. With that comes the differentiation piece. So as you can see in the screenshot, it says like, this is for my ENL entering emerging class. And then there's a drop down arrow. If I drop down that arrow, I can select which students from the class I want to receive that assignment. And then on another assignment, I would, assign the other students. So everyone's getting an assignment, but it's just differentiated and they don't necessarily see the assignment that they shouldn't be seeing. They're just seeing what they should be working on. Again, this is very student friendly. So as you can see in the bottom, I've organized my Google Classroom really by week. And I find that that's beneficial because if students are working or had a tough week and maybe couldn't get on the computer for X, Y, and Z reasons, they know, okay, last week I didn't do any work. Let me go back to April 13th to 17th. Let me see the classwork assignment that I missed. Also, as you can see, I set, reminders for the students, although I have very, very flexible due dates to take into account everyone's personal life, and that this is a really tough time, and we do really need to be understanding of students that maybe doing schoolwork is not their number one priority as they're battling a lot of various, complications at home. So it's also good for me to see, okay, what has been assigned, what's scheduled, and you can modify this at any time that you see fit. And then if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide.
So this is one of our assignments that we posted during our spring break period for the students. So we wanted to focus on social emotional learning, and Ashley actually found this amazing resource from Twitter, and we kind of just adapted it to.
Yeah, so it's called My Stay at Home Journal, and it's really a way to connect with our students on a really personal level. So some of the topics might be like, write about your feelings. What do you see when you look outside your bedroom? What are some things you miss? What's your comfort food? What's something good that came out of this? And the reason I love using Google Slides is that each slide that students were writing on, I could easily make a comment back to them. So if students said, these are my pet birds and these are their names, and I love watching them fly around the house, I could leave a really encouraging comment. And also we did give the students the opportunity to take real pictures, or if they did not have that option, they could find Google images. They could find whatever images they wanted to make their journal, more lively and welcome us into their lives. And it did allow for like a vulnerability between the students and ourselves to really, really connect with the students. And as you have heard, Brianna and I both teach different levels, but this is something that can be modified to any E&L level, any class, anything, just lets them really express themselves in an online journal type of way.
Right, so we were able to, at the transitioning level, my expectations for my students, they had to write a paragraph response, and I gave them a writing checklist. They had to answer in a complete sentence, topic sentence, use sophisticated vocabulary words, and then with Ashley, it might have looked a little bit different, the same high rigor, but the amount of the student-produced work could vary depending on the level. So again, it's easily differentiated for whichever level you're working with the L's for. And then these are just some of the screenshots that we took from our students' journals. And this was a way, again, as Ashley said, just for us to connect with the students. We felt like we learned so much about our students that we didn't already know about, what's going on at home, their siblings, they work in the community, they have multiple jobs. So things that we didn't learn about necessarily back in September, it's kind of like coming out now in a safe space, and we are giving productive, constructive feedback so they know that, of course, we are reading and acknowledging their thoughts. So.
We do have a couple of requests. If you could share the journal. Some
Yes.
people are really responding to that. They really, really like that tool that you used. I love how we saw before ERIN and STACEY ended on that note of friendship and laughter. And now we have Ashley and Brianna, ending on the note of social emotional learning. So it really just reinforces that notion for all of us, how important that social emotional piece is at this time, not only for our students, but for our, for ourselves as well as teachers. So thank you so very much. Here is the email information for Brianna and Ashley if you'd like to reach out to them. And we really encourage you to use each other as a resource. That's the whole point of this collegial circle today, is being able to build each other's capacity. So continue the conversation after today's presentation. Thank you so much, Ashley and Brianna.
Thank you.
And at this point, we have one more teacher to welcome. So we have Samantha Sand with us, who is in her 4th year of teaching ENL K-6 level in the North Belmore School District. And she recently received tenure in her district, so big congratulations to Samantha. I'm sure it was very well deserved. Samantha holds certifications in Spanish adolescent education, TESOL, and childhood education. And she's also a Seesaw ambassador. So today she's going to be sharing with us her co-planning through Seesaw. So welcome, Samantha. We can't wait to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I just want to comment on all the presenters. It was so nice hearing all that you are all doing in your classrooms. I loved watching all of your presentations. And I've noticed that there is a common theme across all of us educators. And that theme is that we care. We care so much that we're willing to use any mode of technology, any means to reach our students where they are and help them cope, help their emotional needs, help their families, and doing this all while teaching new material for them. So I just wanted to start with that. So our district has done an incredible job with transitioning not just ENL families, but all families in general during this, during this time that we're moving towards home learning. We took on the use of using Seesaw because it really is very kid-friendly, family-friendly, teacher-friendly, and it has a variety of tools that are very, very accessible no matter what device they're using. So some of our students may not have access to iPads or laptops, or even just have to share one iPhone across 3 siblings. So one of the things our district has done that has been really great is we have been providing families with laptops and other modes of technology. They are guiding us through telephone, phone calls, emails. I use Remind. I know a lot of the co-teachers I work with, they are also using Remind. But what's so great about Seesaw is it provides an opportunity to be a co-teacher with your classroom teachers, with the other specialists who see some of your students, with the special areas. And there's ways for us to all communicate together in this platform. On top of that, I would also just want to mention that our union and district have been providing food and resources. We've been making deliveries. I am bilingual in Spanish, so even though a student may not be necessarily in my school, if they need support, a lot of the principals and teachers have been calling me to help translate for these families. So during this time, it's just been a wonderful experience being able to collaborate with everybody and being able to support as many families as possible. So with Seesaw, how it works is when you get the paid version, there is a free version, but with the paid version, you have access to at least, I believe it's 20 co-teachers per classroom. So as an ENL teacher, we have access to, as you'll see in the picture on the bottom left, I can see all of the classroom teachers that I'm a part of. In addition, I've been using Zoom, of course, with passwords and protection codes and locking the meeting, so that my students can also see face-to-face connections with me every single day. I help guide them through Seesaw. I teach mini lessons and use Zoom and Seesaw as my 2 main platforms. We also, as I mentioned, use Remind. So with Remind, every day I send them just a friendly good morning message. A lot of my families have built a relationship, a very strong and positive one with me. And so a lot of the classroom teachers will reach out and ask me to communicate with them through that Remind to
Samantha,
get them onto Seesaw.
I just want to reiterate one point. So you have multiple co-teachers, because I see somebody entered a question that they were under the impression you could only have one co-teacher on Seesaw.
So there are multiple co-teachers, and what that necessarily means is that the classroom teacher is the main teacher. So I, as a ENL teacher, am connected to her classroom. The art teacher is a co-teacher. She's connected to that classroom. With the free version, you don't necessarily have that ability. Our district was able to merge us into the classroom. And the classroom teachers, what they can do to make you become a co-teacher is invite you into their classroom through an email link. I'm actually running a PD today for my district later on, where I'm showing teachers how to navigate folders within there because of the fact that there are so many co-teachers involved. If you wouldn't mind going to the next page for me. Thank you. Okay, so as you'll see here, I am showing you the access to a paid version account. So at the top, you'll see where it says Community, School, and My Library. The School tab is incredible. It allows all teachers across North Belmore to share resources with each other, activities that they've made, activities that they found. And so it helps break up the work. So if a fourth grade teacher is sharing with her team in one building, she can post it here so that another fourth grade teacher at a different building can use that resource. The My Library resource, that is access for any teacher to see already created lessons, modify them. A lot of what I've been doing to co-teach with a lot of my classroom teachers is I've been making activities, and as you'll see at the bottom left picture, there's access for you to share. So what I do is I share my activities, or the classroom teacher will share the activity with me through that share mode, and it'll come to my email, or depending on how the teacher shares it, it will come to my Seesaw account. And I can go in and modify it. So at this bottom right picture, this was a kindergarten example where one of my students, and I'm sorry for the red cross out, it's just for privacy settings, hiding my student and teacher's name. So what you'll see is that my student had to go over her sounds and her letters. And so being a co-teacher and being able to help modify and create these assignments, I was able to use Zoom while having Seesaw in the shared mode. And together we were able to record her voice as she made the sounds and as she identified the letter. And then, I'm not sure if you can truly see the picture below, but I was able to then comment. So the feedback to the students is very direct in the comment button. And the classroom teacher is able to comment back to both of us. And the students get those directly to their inbox tab. So they get notifications and they can respond directly there too. So this is the best way to communicate one-on-one with an individual student. Okay, if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so here, this is how we help organize folders and activities and information for our English language learners, or just in general, all of our students. So on Seesaw, there's multiple tabs. The activity tab allows you to see any activity that's assigned to the class, any activities that are scheduled for the class, and any activities that you archived. The benefits of this is that here students will be assigned activities, but teachers are able to schedule them ahead of time and organize them based on time frames for when they are being delivered. So as a co-teacher, the benefit is that I can see what's being scheduled before it's scheduled, before it goes out. And so what I do then is I use my modes of communication, whether it's through Zoom or Remind, and I message families and I let them know what's coming up. And that's how I base my planning. I try and model either pre-teach or reteach, or even just teach what the teachers are currently doing at that time. And every Friday we spend at least 15 minutes going over their upcoming activities. And I love Zoom for the fact that I can share my screen and walk them through and explain those activities to them. The great thing about archived is that once an activity is completed, after a week, or let's say after 2 weeks, because we are mindful as our district and as all educators that these families are going not just through, the struggles of being able to complete assignments, but just daily getting used to this routine, this new lifestyle, this new way of learning. So we are being very mindful and caring about that. And so we might not archive an activity right away. We might wait a week or two. And the benefit of archiving is so that students and teachers are not overwhelmed with the amount of activities posted on their page. Okay, we can turn the next page. And then again, as I mentioned, here's an example of where I knew that a classroom teacher was going to use a wordless book, Hank Finds an Egg. And so they needed to use inferencing in order to complete this activity. And so in order to prepare them, the classroom teacher and I discussed the benefits of going over inferencing. And so through my Zoom session, I was able to scaffold their learning, use visuals, as you see in this picture, go through examples of how we make inferences as learners. And then we were able to go together to complete that assignment. And then the last page. So this was the example of a read aloud for Hank Finds an Egg. So as I mentioned, we're able to then individually log into Seesaw after I was able to help scaffold them to complete this, but at the same time, we're able to complete it together. On the right, another way to organize the students' works are into folders. So every classroom teacher can make a math, science, social studies, etc. folder. In addition, I have my own folder. And we can go in and improve and review work. And what's so great about that is we're able to provide, as I mentioned, direct feedback. And if we want a student to fix something, we can directly provide that feedback in their sample work and then send back. And the students then get a notification that they have to go back in and edit their draft. We're also able to use this calendar feature where it helps us see how many assignments were submitted on what day and how many were completed. So Seesaw is super friendly. All teachers, yes, I see in the comments, were all teachers directed to use Seesaw? Yes, administration came together and they decided with the tech department that this was the best resource for us to use to benefit our younger learners and to also support the education that we're doing. It's an incredible resource. Teachers are able to videotape themselves doing mini lessons, embed them into their activities, and students are getting live lessons from their teachers. In addition, teachers are still using Zoom to video conference. You know, I'm able to include other teachers in my Zoom sessions. And overall, I feel that my district has done nothing but be incredibly supportive for all of us, in families, students, teachers, and Seesaw is an incredible resource that I will continue to use when we're going back into the classroom. For our L's, it's hard enough that they're trying to learn the language and now they have to learn how to use technology. But I'm very proud to say that all of my students have made it onto Seesaw. They're telling me it's fun, they're enjoying it, and there's so many tools. They can draw, video, use the notes, and it's just a great resource overall.
And Samantha, I just want to clarify. So you are working with students and teachers at multiple grade levels?
Yes. I work
classrooms.
in one building, teaching kindergarten through 6th grade, entering all the way up to commanding. So my job as an E&L teacher is really to support these learners, not just with their language, whether they're an emerging learner or a commanding learner, but also to help teach them content in as many areas as possible. So, but I truly get the greatest joy seeing their faces every single day and seeing them growing still while we're doing online learning. And yes, in order to get access codes, our district set up codes for families. So they each have their individual access code to use. Those codes will not disappear when we go back into the classroom because those were individual codes that don't disappear. And what's amazing is these journals end up being in their portfolio forever. So when they go to the next grade level, those teachers in the next grade level have access to those journals and can see their prior learning. So it's really just a wonderful resource. And for anyone who has any more questions for me, you can always email me. You'll see it on the next page. I'm more than happy to even do a shared screen through a Zoom session with anybody who's interested in learning more about Seesaw. I'm a huge advocate for it. And I actually ordered a t-shirt. It's coming in next week. So I'm really excited to, you know, continue supporting as many people and continue supporting my students.
Thank you so much, Samantha. I think you did a really great job of looking in the chat and answering the questions throughout your mini presentation. So if there are any other questions over Samantha, you know, again, feel free to send her an email. I do see one question. Could this work at the high school level?
Yeah, so as I showed before, there is a library. So what's great about Seesaw is you can make your own activities by incorporating your own books. You know, our upper grade, like 6th grade, they're reading novels. So the teacher will post a picture of the novel, of the book that they're reading. He may read a page with them in it. You can also access that library, and it has resources all the way up to 12th grade. So it's wonderful because you don't necessarily have to recreate every lesson. Lessons from ambassadors such as myself have created lessons to put in that library for all grade levels for teachers to access.
Great, thank you so much again, Samantha.
Thank you so much to all of our teachers, really, who either presented for us today or just joined us as participants. I think the passion just really shines through everything, that all of the efforts that people are putting forth to support our English learners in our digital classrooms. So, and thank you also for everyone. We know that we ran past our 11:30 end time, but pretty much everybody stuck around because it was just such great stuff being shared. So thank you so very much. If you missed anything or if you weren't able to stay, a recording of today's session will be available on our website and also on our YouTube channel. And just once again, before we go, we want to remind you to return to My Learning Plan, to please complete an evaluation for today's webinar so that we can just, you know, really learn from your feedback, identify topics for future sessions, and just to get your thoughts on what was shared today. And also keep checking our website for upcoming professional development opportunities and webinars, resources that are being offered through the Long Island RBERN. So thank you again all so much. Thank you especially to our teachers who presented today. You really, really brought the session to life and just shared such amazing tips and resources. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
safe and be well.